So the epic 9 hours of Kyalami races back next weekend, and also serves as the Southern African National Endurance Series season finale. The drivers will push their cars to the limit in the ultimate endurance race in South Africa that brings South African drivers as well as international drivers to one track. Now, a big part of the weekend is a driver who has achieved victory during the 9 hours of Kyalami. That is, of course, Mikaeel Pitamber, as well as the CEO of the Southern African National Endurance Series, that is Wayne Riddell. They join us in studio this morning for a conversation regarding what's coming up next weekend and what we can expect on the track in Kyalami. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you so much for your time.
Good morning, Rachel. Thanks for the opportunity.
Wayne, we'll start with you. Endurance racing in South Africa, how big is this? And why should South Africans actually matter about the sport?
They need to matter a lot. It's our heritage. It's one of our histories. It's one of our sports. It's not really been recognized as much as the mainstream sports. Endurance racing dates back to the 60s, so it's not something uncommon to the average household. However, I think it is uncommon to the majority of our population. And our population is not a car culture as other countries. We're more food and music. So, so it is big. It's massive for us. We took over the series about 3 years ago. We have many aims, many challenges that we want to get out of the series.
Yeah.
But how big is it for this country? We have national titles up for grabs next weekend. 3 national titles up for grabs next weekend. So yeah, it is big. It's big. It's big business.
Yeah, and preparations for this event, because it's a big event. It's huge. It's taking place in Kyalami. Like you said, you took over about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Talk to us about how preparations have been going. What has to give to sort of host a competition of this magnitude? I
think we start off with will and desire, and then we follow that with a big bank balance, because it costs money as well, and time and effort. You know, Kolile Tlatle, the chairman of our board, and myself, when we took over the series 3 years ago, our primary aim was to lower the barrier of entry and expose the sport to a larger audience, and to let our youth realize that this is actually career choice as well. It's available to them. So, you know, we've lowered the entry fee for spectators. It's down to 150 Rand. You can come along and have 15 hours of motorsport entertainment. We've got a massive music lineup, 16 artists. We're going to be playing for 12 hours. We've got flea markets. We've lowered the barrier of entry even for traders. We've got informal traders. We've given them free entry to come in and trade their wares. We've got rental go-karts for everybody. Come and have a bit of fun. I've got a kids zone, jumping castles, you know, face painting, balloon animals and all that. So it's a real family affair. Oh, and the thing is, you know, even you can come around next Saturday, bring your cooler box, bring your braai, bring your gazebo or umbrella, bring your chair and camp off next to the track and just have a family day.
A family day. That's what you guys are trying to do.
And that's really what it's about.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mikaeel, let's bring you into this conversation. So you've been to Kyalami before. You've raced in this 9-hour race of Kyalami.
Yep.
How has the experience been for you, and why are you back again?
Well, I think Uncle Wayne has done an amazing job with trying to make the event a lot better. And I think coming back to it is always a happy feeling, racing in South Africa again and racing at Kyalami. And I hope I can do it for many more years. And I'm quite excited for it.
Yeah, let's talk to us, though, about your preparations. You know, because we were talking off air, it's not essentially you guys being in the car for 9 hours. It's a team of drivers who drive for the 9 hours. Yeah. What preparations do you have to go through mentally as well as physically to be in a car for 3 hours? How do you guys split the hours between yourselves?
Yeah, so for the 9 hours next weekend, we have 3 drivers, so we'll split it equally. Of course, depending on strategy, we'll obviously have to play with stuff like that. But I think preparation before the race, I think, is probably the most important thing that I have to do. Physically, it's extremely important to be fit enough to be able to perform at my maximum capability the whole time, as well as mentally. I guess maybe people look over this, but I think mentally it's extremely challenging having to push yourself to the limit 100% of the time for as long as we do. I think it's quite difficult, and it's extremely important to prepare beforehand.
Physically, what do you have to do? How physically strong do you have to be behind the wheel of a car for that long?
I train 2 times a day, and I have to be on the simulator for about 3 hours a day. I think it's a lot more difficult than what it looks like. And having to be in the car, not only the physical part of it, but also the heat that we experience in the car plays a big factor in having to be physically fit in the car.
And Wayne, talk to us about the caliber of races that are coming through to, South Africa, because this is open to, races outside of the country. What is the caliber of those races coming through to South Africa for this 9-hour race?
I think the top 5 or 6 drivers are all world leaders. They've all won championships. I mean, we got Keegan Masters, who just won the Italian Carrera Cup Open. We got a lot of international drivers coming out here, but our South Africans also do quite well internationally. Mikaeel is one of the drivers that raced most of Europe this year. Cordelia Tlatla, chairman, he's raced in Europe. Stuart White, his teammate, and Mike, his teammate, he raced the European Series as well. We got the Van der Linde brothers, who have taken the titles by storm. We've got Jordan Pep, and the list carries on. So the caliber is very, very high. And to give you an example, I mean, 2019, there was an Intercontinental GT Championship. It was just GT cars at Kyalami. And these guys are putting in exactly the same lap times. And in some instances, I think last year we broke the lap record.
Yeah.
So the quality of driver is definitely up there. And just to their point, I mean, he mentioned 3 hours in the simulator. It's a throwaway comment for the average South African. But these guys sit for 3 hours behind a computer screen with a steering wheel in their hands, developing muscle memory. Now, why is that important? It's very important, because by the time they get to the racetrack, they don't have to know where the left and the right is. All they've got to learn is where's the grip levels and where are the natural elements, where there's a bump in the road that a computer simulator would not have picked up. That's all they've got to do. Their brains are conditioned to know exactly where the brake markers are, where's left and right. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of concentration.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's a Herculean effort.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are burning through 110 litres of fuel an hour. I don't know how much you get in your car. Your most road-going car must be about 45, 50-litre car, and you can probably ride to work for a week on that.
Yeah, that's a lot
exactly.
of fuel.
So they burn 110 litres an hour.
And tyres, how many tyres do they have to go
Almost
through?
Almost a set of tyres per hour. They're probably 9-10 sets of tyres just for the race. For the whole weekend, they're probably about 15 sets of tyres for the weekend. So, yeah.
My goodness. Mikaeel, and you've got a team right around you. It's not just you, the driver, who's obviously responsible for the performance on the day. Talk to us about the team behind you that essentially also gets you in that position.
Yeah, I guess as drivers, we are mostly portrayed as the face behind our victories, but I think that if we hadn't had the team behind us, I think we wouldn't have got to where we were. And I think the team plays the biggest role, on a weekend. And there's a lot more people than behind the scenes that work than what people see.
Yeah. And where have you raced this year, in preparation, of course, for the big one? Talk to us about what you've done this year in building up to next week, Saturday.
Yeah, so this year I competed in the International GT Open in a Mercedes AMG GT3.
Yeah.
And that was 8 rounds. I think we did pretty well. I was one of the youngest competitors on the grid. And I think racing overseas has helped me become better as a driver and a person. And I think next weekend will prove that.
How old are you, Mikaeel?
I'm 21.
You're 21, right? What is your message then, to youngsters in this country to sort of get into motorsport? Because like Wayne alluded to earlier, motorsport is not a big sport in the country. Obviously, the attraction is there to sort of attract youngsters to take a liking to the sport. Your message to, youngsters, why should they take a liking to motorsport? It's an elite sport. It's expensive. Yeah. You play it. You are involved in it. Why should youngsters be involved?
I think, for me, motorsport is one of the only sports where it's not only you behind your victory. There's 50 other people that work behind the scenes for you, and you have to give back to all of those people too. And I think my message for all the youngsters and everybody else in the world would probably be to not give up, no matter how difficult the times get.
Yeah.
It's just not to give up.
Yeah. Wayne, how much of hosting this Formula One, not Formula One, but 9-hour race, how much of it should it also be an indication to the world that South Africa can host, competitions of this magnitude? There has been conversation, obviously, in the past about South Africa hosting a Formula One event, hopefully in the near future. We've seen Gayton McKenzie, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, speaking to Formula One about the possibility of bringing Formula One to South Africa. How much of you guys hosting this event sort of rides on showing the world that South Africa has what it takes to host a Formula One race in the future?
I think, the chairman of our board, he coined in a board meeting, he says, we must start this hashtag full Kyalami. And I think that's really what he's trying to say, is to show the world that we are a car culture, that we are passionate, and that we are ready for hosting a big international event. The minister is doing a lot of groundwork at the moment to get us a seat at the table. The reality is that the Kyalami facility now needs to get itself upgraded to meet the international standard. That's a bit of a process. Once it's all those final decisions are taken and the changes to the circuit that are required are implemented, then South Africa can take a seat at that table that the minister's busy getting us a seat for. And they can put their hand up and say, we're now ready. We now want to be considered on the calendar. So I think this is part of a journey. We are just a national championship, but we are growing with international interest and notoriety. People are sitting up paying attention. Our viewerships on our socials is, believe it or not, bigger in Europe than it is in South Africa at the moment. We've got a youngster, he's 15 years old. He's racing, his name is Jamie Going, he's from the UK. He races the British GT4 championships. He's racing with us next weekend. So we have some big hitters that are playing with us, and I think the world is starting to sit up and pay attention. I mean, if I look at our viewership last year, both live on television as well as the YouTube channels, we had over 100,000 people watch our race last year. So I'm hoping to exceed that this year.
All right, so just a final one before I let you go. Obviously, it's going to be a big weekend. Noisy cars around the track for 9 hours. What else should we expect when we come through on Saturday for
it's a family day. It's not just a motorsport event. It is an absolute family day. We tell people arrive at 5, gates open at 5 in the morning. First car is on track at about 7. We've got a whole lot of support races. We've got a single-seater festival. There's 37 cars on the grid. It's a Herculean effort by those guys. So there is entertainment on track. There's entertainment off track. We've got a music festival. I've got a 16-artist lineup. I've got 45 food stalls in the food hall, a beer garden, flea market, kids zone, jumping castles, rental carts, as I mentioned earlier. We've got some big headline acts. I've got Zakes Bantwini, Oscar Mbo, Prime Circle, and these guys are all playing. They're all going to have an absolute blast. And we're going to play right into night, 12 hours of music. We've got big screen TVs all over the circuit, so you don't have to worry about missing any of the action. Find yourself, park off in one of the corners, see what's happening in the other corners. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience for South Africans to experience. Korile, he got his first introduction to motorsport at the age of 50. I have a memory of 8 years old, sleeping at the track the night before with my mom and my dad, hanging on the fence, and we'd have breakfast cooked at the track. But that's the point I'm trying to make, is that, as a youth, that was the history I've got. We want to create those legacies, those stories for the youth of today.
What time does the race start?
So the feature race starts at 1 o'clock. Okay. Prime Circle are singing off the national anthem for us just before 1. 1 o'clock we start. We go through till 10 p.m. at night.
Mikaeel, are you ready?
Yeah, of course I am.
Yeah.
So what's race week like for you, building up to race week? What do you then do in the next couple of days to get yourself ready for race day?
I think the preparation before, this coming week I'd have to recover as much as possible for the weekend to try and be at optimal performing capabilities. And I think it's just about being calm and just believing my ability to do well. I think that's probably what I'll do.
Right, and there's a title on the line, right?
Yeah.
Title.
Yeah, Uncle Exo is fighting for the national championship as well as my teammate Stuart.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to do whatever I can to give them the opportunity to win.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I'm hoping our cameras will be there way next week.
I can tell you, I've approved their accreditation already, so I know the application has come through. I've seen it come across my desk. So yeah,
fabulous, guys. Thank you so much for your time this morning. All the best of luck on the track.
Thank you,
Mikaeel. All the best of luck.
Thank you for the opportunity. A huge opportunity. We really, really appreciate giving us the kind of exposure that the station has done. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you guys there as well.
Yeah, that's the plan. Absolutely love it. Can't wait. All the best to you guys. Of course, at the 9-hour Kyalami race taking place at the Kyalami racetrack out in Midrand next weekend.